right, folks, welcome back to another episode of Gear or Gadget. Today in the office, we're joined by longtime brand friend, Steve Sherk from Sherk's Guide Service. Thanks for stopping in today.
Thanks for having me.
Today, we're going to talk about some gear we've all used, and we're going to give you our feedback on it, whether it's gear or gadget. Before we do that, we have 3 simple rules. Number 1, no brand bashing. We're not here to bash any certain brands. Number 2, there's no use of the term game changer. We're not changing the game here. And number 3, if you like what we have going on, just leave us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel.
All right, well, let's get into the first product. I got something a little unique to the whitetail world, not necessarily as applicable to whitetail hunting. Could be, but more geared towards Western hunting. So last year, talked about this in past episodes, past podcasts, past content. I'm diving into the elk wormhole. I've been bitten by the bug. And in my backcountry journeys last year, I had to have a backcountry tent. When it comes to backcountry hunting, weight and pack space is always a concern. So knowing that, kind of hunting out of a spike setup and basically carrying camp on your back for so many days, I had to make a purchase on a tent. If you know my gear profile, it's buy once, cry once, so I spent some money. What I ended up with is, I think it's pronounced Agnes, but Big Agnes or Agnes brand tent, and this specific model is the Copper Spur HVUL2. This is a 2-person tent, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that because I'm a big guy. Even if you're not a big guy, you have camp, you have your hunting gear, you have clothes, you have food, you have everything with you. Maybe you're not storing food with you, but you have a lot of stuff, boots, all this extra stuff that you're carrying. A 1-person tent is only going to give you enough space for you to lay like a vampire in your sleeping bag at night. There's not a whole lot of room. So for me, I went ahead and purchased a 2-person tent. It gives me a little extra room to keep some gear items inside my tent and just have a little bit of space, so my shoulders aren't necessarily touching the walls of the tent. I really, really like this tent. I was in some inclement weather in the mountains, and as you guys know, like the weather changes in the mountains at elevation, like snap of your fingers. Now, some of that depends on your sleeping system also, but as far as inclement weather, I've been in the rain in this, I've been in the wind in this, which wind is a big deal. I have not been in any snow, so there's concern there with different tents with snow loads, tents collapsing, poles collapsing, and can leave a big mess. But as far as moisture protection, wind durability, this thing has been outstanding. One thing I'll add to that on the moisture side, when you start applying different weatherproof membranes or fabric coatings, I will say, at times different tents can not be as breathable, and you can actually have a sweating effect where you're getting moisture inside your temp from that. I did not experience that with this tent at all. Now, but it's also very well vented. There's 2 kind of external vestibules on the outside, which is a big deal to me because it gives you extra storage capacity where you can store your equipment outside of the weather and doesn't necessarily have to be in the tent. So for example, stinky socks, boots, things that you've been wearing all day, you can keep them out of the weather, but you don't necessarily have to sleep with them next to your face and smell the whatever all night long. So absolutely fantastic tent. Very easy to set up. You could set this thing up in probably less than, I think 5 minutes is probably a stretch, honestly. I mean, I used it in Wisconsin. Very, very simple design. You don't need any instructions to go through and read. And this is pole A, this is pole B, this is 1A, 1B. Super, super simple. Great design. It is pricey. The price tag on this comes in at about $550. I bought it at a little bit of a discount through an industry program. I think I paid $3 something for it, which is still kind of on that upper end. But again, buy once, cry once. If you're in the backcountry, at times, this is the only protection you have from the weather. And even in September, I mean, we went from 80 degree days, honestly, to days where there was 3 or 4 inches of snow on the ground. So backcountry tent is a big deal. One other pro to this, you could see this is it right here.
Yeah, I was going to say, small and compact.
Very, very small. It's very packable. It fits into your pack. Excellent. Doesn't take up a lot of space. Man, this is an excellent purchase. If anybody is in the market for a new tent, or maybe you're a newbie and looking for your first tent purchase, just consider this brand and the model.
What's the trail weight on that?
I think it's about 2.3 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah, so one thing I wanted to bring up on that is I have a backpacking backcountry tent as well. It's a 3-person tent, and I think it's by Alps Mountaineering. A little bit more budget-friendly brand. However, the trail weight on that is 5.5 pounds. The packed weight is 6 pounds. You have a third of the weight in that because it's a little bit more pricey. So if you're more on the budget and you want to have a little cheaper option, something you have to sacrifice something, and most of the time with a backpack tent, it's going to be weight.
That was a big inspiration for the purchase, was that packable weight, because we know we were doing X amount of miles and we were going to be in for 3 days, out for 3 days, in for 5 days, out for 5 days, whatever the case is. And I'm pretty sure it's sub 3 pounds, but we'll throw that up on the screen to show you exactly what the backpack weight is, and that's including everything. So the way you would pack it in your backpack is that total weight. Piece of gear, 100%.
Yeah, I agree. Gear.
Steve, what you got?
All right. I brought these loophole binoculars. But overall, I don't want to just lean on binoculars. I want to talk about optics overall. I've always said and, believe that optics are arguably one of the most important tools that you need as a hunter. I would not, it's one of those situations where I don't think you can either skimp or all, you can, like, for instance, loophole. They're a little more of a, a little more expensive, I should say, especially not so much binoculars, but your scope on your gun. Like, you cannot afford to have a fail when you have an opportunity. You need to pull that scope up. It needs to be perfectly clear. You can't have moisture in it. It's just amazing. Like, I've met and witnessed so many hunters, especially as a guide. Like, I've seen $1,000 rifles with like $100 scope.
I was just going to say that my stepdad, he'll go spend money on his firearm, and then he has some knockoff
Tasco.
$80 scope on it.
Yep.
And it's like, it should be the other way around.
Absolutely. I think that you can get away with a cheap rifle, and you may not be able to, hit bullseyes at 200 yards with a cheap rifle, but for, for just killing game and making kill shots, go the other way. For instance, where I'm from, it's very rugged country, all kinds of crazy weather conditions. There's way more situations where good optics even become more of an important factor. Even though I didn't bring a scope, I specifically scope even more than binoculars. I will say, make sure that you don't skimp on that quality. I use Loophole. I'm not saying they're the best brand. They've been great for me, though. I have no complaints. The one doe I shot this year, I think I had a 60-year-old Loophole scope on that gun. It's still as clear as can be. It was my grandfather's gun. We've never had an issue with it. I mean, just knowing that you have that kind of durability, I don't care what the price is at that point. Like, you're going to get your money's worth either way that long. And then I will touch on binoculars a little bit, especially as a guide. I love these Loophole Pro Guide binoculars. They're 10x42s. I don't like a big bulky binocular, but yet I don't like those little ones you can just stuff in your pocket. In Pennsylvania, because we have the antler restriction, if I'm with someone, like, they're really counting on me for that help as far as, okay, does it have 3 on one side? In fact, I know these binoculars right here, even though I wasn't necessarily guiding my dad last year, but when I was with him and he shot his buck, all he said was, I got a glimpse of horns. He saw the buck before me, and I pulled up, and, like, even though he had a good scope, but with these binoculars, I was able to do all the work for him. He actually said, I don't think it's a shooter, and it ended up being like 130 so much 10-point. And I said, Dad, just shoot it. I was like, trust me. I was like, that's a no doubt shooter. I see it clearly. He kind of looked at me like, man, I only get one buck tag here in Pennsylvania. I said, as soon as you see that deer in a clear opportunity, pull the trigger. And, he shot it, and long story short, he was more than pleased with what he got. But that just all boiled down to the optics situation. I can't afford to be with a client, especially, and be like, well, I'm not sure, or, they count on me for so much help. And then also, when I'm not guiding, I'm using binoculars a lot, glassing and that. I can't tell you how many times I was able to pick something out better with a good set of binoculars, versus just my scope, and just overall, like I said, you can wear cheap boots and be a little bit cold and wet. You can get by with that. You can get by with your rain gear leaking a little bit. But when you pull up on an animal, and it might be the only opportunity you get all year, you can't afford a breakdown. So I think my overall point is choose wisely with your optics. Make sure that they have good reviews. You can count on them 100% because it's just, you cannot gamble on something that's basically your only chance for having a successful or not successful hunt. So
Absolutely. Buy once, cry once. Buy them before you need them.
yep.
So you have them.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add. That's gear, optics, gear.
Yep.
So today, what I have, we've previously had a thermacell on the show, and thermacells are gear, 100%.
Wow.
And I believe that I may have found a solution that can replace your thermacell
Okay.
in situations where scent is not an issue. So turkey hunting, or maybe you're hunting out west, or maybe you aren't a scent control guy in the deer woods, which I'm not. Early season hunts. This is picaridin, I believe that the pronunciation is on there. It's made by Sawyer, so the same Sawyer brand that makes permethrin. I do couple this with permethrin. I don't trust this alone for ticks. It might work just as well for ticks, but this is, for me, mosquito repellent. And I just hunted in South Carolina swamps this past weekend. And you want to talk about mosquitoes. So loud that you look around, you're like, I'm in a swarm. And I'm hunting with Joe Miles, and he's over there just whack, whack, the whole time, and I'm just looking at him. No, I'm not even bothered by them.
Eliminating that movement is a huge thing
That's
too.
the point. So not only can mosquitoes transmit diseases and all that, but when you're hunting and you have to be still and you have a mosquito on your face and you need to get that thing because it's sucking the blood out of your face and you can't move, it's it's torture.
It is torture. Torture is the right word.
It's torture. For me, I think it's kind of new. This is a lotion that lasts up to 14 hours, so you apply it directly on your skin. They also have a spray, so you can spray it on your clothing and stuff. It doesn't last as long. I think it lasts for 8 hours, but plenty, So this is picaridin insect repellent lotion, gear for keeping mosquitoes away.
I'm super interested in that because I just got a quick story about a spring gobbler hunt once. So one time I had this gobbler hung up and it was mid-spring and he's in sight of me. And I'm sure you guys know, once a turkey's in sight of you, you almost can't even blink. Well, I'm pretty sure it was a mosquito, bite me right on my eyelid. You want to talk about the most awkward, uncomfortable, excruciating situation because he's 80 yards, going between 70, 80 yards, strutting back and forth. And I literally just started crying. It wasn't so much the pain, but it was just the uncomfort was so unbearable. And I never did, scratch my eye or all I needed to do was literally this. And I feel like it would have made it so much better. But
Can't do it.
That's exactly what can happen if you don't try to eliminate those. And I mean, I'm not saying I'm the toughest guy in the world, but I think about 9 out of 10 hunters probably would have said, screw it. Then there goes the gobbler. And long story short, I didn't get the gobbler, so that made it even worse, but I'm totally interested in that.
I mean, I think I don't know what that ran you, $5, $10.
Yeah, I think it's $6.
$6 for $6. If you don't have a thermacell, or even if you do have a thermacell, you want to try something else out, it's pretty much a no-brainer. Apply it. Use it in conjunction with permethrin on your clothes.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 different applications, but yeah.
Yeah, the thermacell replacing for me, thermacell works. There's no reason to not use it, but I don't have to take this with me.
Yes,
I
you don't have to worry
applied
about the cartridges running out.
Yeah. I apply this in the morning and I put it back in my bag or back in my truck and I'm just going.
Super easy to just store in the truck or wherever,
The scent isn't that strong. So yeah, take that for what it's worth. But
especially spring gobbler hunting.
yeah, if you're in an area where mosquitoes are a problem, try it.